Hello again. In John Karel von Baalen's wonderful book, Chaos of Cults, last edition published 1962, Chapter 9 is on the destiny of America. At that point, that particular group was more prominent than the British Israel, but it has its origin in the British Israel movement going back some generations earlier. He says, destiny of America, this cult is more generally known as British Israelism or Anglo-Israelism, but why not use the more fascinating of its names, Destiny of America? That name holds for the entire North American continent, and the program can appropriately close its broadcast with the one tune that to Canadians means God Save the King, and to Americans, My Country 'Tis of Thee. One program and one melody for Dominion Day on July the 1st and for Independence Day on July the 4th. One glorious world-saving destiny, indeed for all who have at one time or another emigrated to the North American continent. For Britain is Ephraim, and the United States is Manasseh, and the throne of David is now the British throne. With Mormonism, Anglo-Israelism has in common some wild speculations concerning the early inhabitants of America. With Seventh-day Adventism, it has in common that it has some earnest Christians among its ranks, while both systems are vicious. With the early Rosicrucianism, it shares the intricate mathematical measurings of the Great Pyramid of Egypt, from which Pastor Russell determined the date of Christ's return, afterward condemned by Rutherford, and Professor G.P. Smith wrote Our Inheritance in the Great Pyramid. That's Professor G. Piazzi Smith, I believe he's talking about here. Spelled, not smelled, with a Y, not an I. On page 1 of the first book of Nephi, in the Book of Mormon, I read, I, Nephi, make a record in the language of my father, which consists of the learning of the Jews and the language of the Egyptians. Not only were the Reformed Egyptian characters, and the characters, by the way, is spelled C-A-R-A-C-T-O-R-S, Reformed Egyptian characters, that is, writing of the Egyptians, according to the Mormon claim. Not only were these characters the product of a deceptive brain, but there never existed such a language. On page 549 of the Book of Mormon, we read, And it came to pass that I, Mormon, being 11 years old, was carried by my father into the land Zarahemla, the whole face of the land having become covered with buildings, and the people were as numerous almost as if it were the sand of the sea. Now this boy, Mormon, was one of the last descendants of the godly Nephi who had left Jerusalem in the days of Zedekiah. These Nephites had built a godly civilization during 400 years, but they backslid and were utterly destroyed in AD 384 by the descendants of Ishmael, who had come from Jerusalem with Nephi. Israel's descendants, the black-skinned Lamanites, destroyed all vestiges of civilization in Central America. Mormon and his son Moroni fortunately recorded the entire story on golden plates, which were afterwards hidden in the hill Cumorah in New York, until in 1827 they were revealed by Moroni, now an angel, to Joseph Smith Jr., the prophet. The Book of Mormon also tells of an earlier settlement in America by the Jaredites, who had come in cigar-shaped boats to America after the confusion of tongues at Babylon. The Book of Mormon insists that between the Jaredites and the Nephites, Central America and Mexico lay idle for 600 years, and the land was so desolate that it was named Zarahemla, the land of desolation. According to such famous anthropologists and historians as Bancroft, Baldwin, and others, however, these lands have always had a dense population, and the inhabitants have always been copper-colored, that is, neither white Nephites nor black Lamanites, and they have ever been a gentle people. Now, when Christians refuse upon scientific grounds to accept these grotesque Mormon ethnological vagaries and fantasies, why should they accept the equally unattested Anglo-Israel fiction, which traces America's white population to the Israelites of Zedekiah's time, because Saxon, that is the word Saxon, is said to be really Isaac's son, or son of Isaac, and British is allegedly to be really alleged to be really a Hebrew word derived from Hebrew beret, covenant, and ish, man, meaning therefore the men of the covenant. At best, Mr. M. Wingarden, emeritus professor of the Old Testament in Calvin Seminary, said if the word British had aught to do with beret and ish, it could not mean men of the covenant, but only covenant of man. But besides, all scholars are agreed, and every seminary student discovers, to his grief, that the Semitic and Anglo-Saxon tongues have nothing in common. And so it is. And this is in keeping with the elaborate history of the English language at the beginning of Webster's dictionary, and also with the findings of the Oxford Dictionary. The only resemblance between Hebrew and English is to be found in a few words that have been taken over from the Old Testament. Dr. Albertus Peters, late professor in the Western Theological Seminary, Holland, Michigan, reminds us that the Anglo-Israelites have gone to such ridiculous lengths in this matter as to draw even the Japanese within the pale of ancient Israel. So, they say, there is a remarkable similarity between the Japanese word samurai, the name for the old Japanese military caste, and Samaria, the capital of the Kingdom of Israel. Not only so, they have ventured to conclude that since the Hebrew word for a young bullock was Engel, therefore the land of the Anglo-Saxons was called England. And since these Isaac's sons, no doubt, as good Israelites, sacrificed plenty of young bullocks, or Hebrew Engels, therefore England's inhabitants were called John Bull. For all such palpable nonsense, the movement keeps growing until it now claims some 2 million adherents scattered through many denominations. This is written, this edition comes out in 1962, so British Israel had pretty much died out, and it was now being replaced, at least in its North American version, by the Destiny of America group. It gets into that in more detail next time. This time I'll put in a link to 5 characteristics of cultic groups. See you soon.